This is the Oakwyn Podcast, featuring Morgan Brown and Michael Yu.
Welcome to the Oakwyn Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Yu.
And I am Eric Grant.
And I'm the Podfather.
And we don't have Morgan here today, so we can relax.
Good.
I'm going to unbutton this part of my shirt here.
Let that chest hair hang out.
There you go. The one chest hair come out. Away you
I'm
go.
like a chihuahua, actually. A hairless one.
Yeah, I also have one chest hair. It's embarrassing.
Oh boy. Yeah.
This is guy talk. But Eric, thanks for being part of the pod and filling in.
I'm here.
Yeah. This is your second time on the pod,
This
right?
is my second one, yeah.
A little bit different, hey? I think last time you did it at my house,
It
right?
was at your house. Yeah, Morgan was she pregnant or she had? No, she was pregnant.
Okay.
Because I brought
That's
flowers
right.
and that. She was in that emotional stage and she just went. Yeah. So up on the couch and away.
Yeah.
We went, so
Totally.
certainly a different feeling here.
Yeah, I know, but it's awesome. Like this place. You put up the guitars.
Oh, yeah. I got some guitars up there now.
Yeah.
I play them every now and then.
Are you playing? Yeah, are you playing?
Yeah, it's nice. Well, I mean, before when I was just had the studio in the corner of the house, it's like, feel like, when can you play the acoustic guitar? When can you just I'm not just going to bust it out at, midnight and just start playing a song, but I can do it whenever I want here. I can just, I feel like playing Hotel California. I just pull down the acoustic
and away we go.
Lay out.
Well, that might be our segue at the end. That'll be our exit. That'll be the exit.
Oh, actually, I would love to hear. A little bit of guitar, maybe a little bit later. But yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah,
why not?
Sure.
Always.
Do you play any instruments, Eric?
I have zero musical talent. I've got two older brothers.
Yeah.
My oldest brother took everything. He's
Okay.
he was a percussionist and he does quarter beats and on it. Like he is just phenomenal.
Paradiddles and stuff.
It's incredible.
A percussionist? Is that a drummer?
Drummer.
Yeah, a drummer.
And he actually, we were at a family event. Gosh, this is probably a couple of years ago. And he actually came up to each of us individually and he goes, "I'm sorry." And he goes, and we're like, "What do you mean?" That sounded very Canadian. Sorry. I'm sorry. And he goes, because we had a place, we grew up in Tsawwassen, South Delta, and we had a big piece of property. And in the sunroom, he set up his entire drum kit.
Okay.
And he would whack the crap out of these things. He'd put the headphones on, crank his sticks or AC/DC or whatever, and he would just go.
Wow.
For 45 minutes, an hour, a couple hours like this, and he once a week kind of thing. And it was just the entire neighborhood must have heard it. Like, don't apologize to us. Yeah. Go door to door and apologize to everybody. But he was phenomenal. He was really, really good. So he took it all. Yeah. My middle brother and I, we're sort of the athletes in the family. So we kind of did all the sports and all that stuff. Bruce was into a bit of rugby, but.
Okay. Was he like artistic then? Because there's like a certain artistic type, right?
You're one or the other. You're either artistic, artsy, but I did theater, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I was that balance of being the quarterback on the football team and then the lead in the play. So, which was an odd.
That is an odd
scenario.
combo.
Yeah.
You were like the guy that was like the bully and the arts guy. Beating yourself up, right?
You're putting yourself in a headlock. I was third string chess master.
What about you? Are you
distinguished?
any
No,
music
you know what? Like, so obviously being Chinese, like I have to take piano lessons. So
probably violin too.
Yeah, no, I didn't take violin, but like my mom bought a piano for us when we were young, and then so like all of us took piano, my big sister took the piano lessons for the longest, but then like when it got to me, I think it started getting really expensive. So like I think I took 2 or 3 piano lessons, and then that was it. Yeah.
Because have you been that way the whole time?
No, I wouldn't. Yeah, not. I guess. Yeah, I've always kind of like been really addicted to like music ever since I was just very little. My dad was a drummer, but I think in grade 7, 8, must have been grade 8. My brother got into band class. Then he got into listening to like metal and punk and metal. And so he started started just humming around the household, and and you could hear it throughout the entire house all the time. And my parents made him a deal that if he stopped humming, they would buy him a bass. And so he got a bass. Yeah. And he taught me how to play bass. And then I said, this isn't really that cool. Girls like guys that play guitar, so I learned guitar instead.
Guitars.
Yeah. I begged my parents for a guitar, and then never looked back.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, that is.
How'd you get into acting, Eric?
I've always been like, I see it in my son now.
Okay.
He's a ham, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah.
And it's real. I've always done theater. Like growing up, I've always in the plays and all that stuff.
Just at school, or did you do anything outside?
It was just in school.
Yeah.
I think, looking back at it now, it's nice having that drama teacher who saw that and encouraged that. Because it's amazing how teachers can influence you, right?
Yeah. So who was the teacher? What was the story?
Mr. Burke. Mr. Burke. He was the guy, and then that was that. So that would have been in junior high. Okay. And then in high school, it was a guy named Mr. Guy, and he was more
Mr.
Mr. Guy. Yeah. But
Mr. Guy sounds like he. Anyways,
sounds like quite the guy.
There you go.
Quite the drama guy.
So Mr. Guy, you would ask him what time it was, and he would explain you how the watch is made. There was one time I had to get a podium for a speech, and I go, Mr. Guy, excuse me, where's the podium? He goes, well, this morning it was in the office, but then I had to varnish it because I know you guys were doing it. So I took it from there and I moved it to the workshop, and then Steve was working on it there for a little bit. And it would just go on. And I'm like, just where's the podium? I need it now. Kind of thing. So I've always been that. And then in high school, and then being in Vancouver, you've got film and television, and I'm dating myself, but it was that 21 Jump Street.
Oh, were you in any?
Oh, I was.
Oh, okay. Tell me what are some of the shows you've been on?
Wise Guy, Danger Bay, Booker, Commish.
Wow, the Commish. I remember that.
21 Jump Street.
Oh, okay. I remember 21 Jump Street too.
Yeah, I did a bunch of 21 Jump Street and stuff like that.
Were you the villain or the good guy?
I was in a gang. I was in a gang. I was the bad guy. I had the slick back hair and the leather jacket, and
Do you remember any of your lines?
I don't remember. Yeah. It's funny. None of my stuff. Like even the shows I did in New York. None of my lines. None of my
really?
Lines. None.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about that. So basically you were in Vancouver and then you moved to New York.
And I had an opportunity to go to school in New York. Yeah. And I did theater there, and
it's theater as a major there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah.
And for me, it was also an opportunity to move to New York.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to, I had an opportunity. I was like, you got to go to New York.
Yeah.
So I was there 3 years, and it was fantastic.
Wow. What an adventure. So what are some stories from New York?
Well, I've got how much time you got, man? Like
this honestly,
every day in New York is an adventure.
Okay.
Like it really is, like just even walking from your apartment to the subway.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like I remember even coming home one time, the way the subways work, you've got uptown and downtown, and sometimes you've got two stops. So you've got an express train or a local. And so you've got a platform with a train on either side.
Right.
And then sort of past that, you've got the other platform with the local. So there's sort of 4 trains that would come by. So there's always people around. And sometimes they'll have musicians playing, and there'll be this particular one, the husband was on the one side playing the violin or whatever, and the wife was on the other side playing a piano, and just the acoustics were fantastic. And somebody came in and stole this person's money on the other side of the track.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I guess I put my cape on, and I kind of did okay, here we go. And I ran up the platform, and there was another guy on the other side, and we chased this guy down.
Oh, wow.
And I was kind of conscious. I was like, he might have something, but the other guy was a bit more aggressive. So I just kind of cornered him a bit more.
Yeah.
And so we finally had him, and he realized he was caught.
Right.
And then these 3 policemen come, and I swear to God, it was so stereotypical. They literally had powder from donuts around their mouth like this as they walked in, like this. And
they saunter in.
We got it from here, son, like this. And they took but that's just one, right? And then the restaurants and the park, and like it's New York. Like everywhere you go, it's a movie set, right? And that's what I had a conversation with someone once. It was like, would New York be New York if it didn't have the history of film and television? right? Because it's quintessential, right? You have the brownstones, you've got the cobblestone streets, you've got Central Park, all that stuff, the classic photographs of the black and whites and all that stuff of New York. And, it's like, but yeah, New York's New York. So
like, did you have a network when you went there, or did you know anybody? So it's just so you just had that boldness, just like, okay, I'm going. Wow.
Yeah.
That's like, I always admired people that did that. Like,
you wouldn't do that?
If I was to tell my younger self something, I would tell him to do that. But like, I was just, I was a bit not as bold, as I probably could have been when I was younger. And I kind of wanted to, there was like a section of time before when I started working and right after school that I was like, okay, I was all geared up to go on a big trip. Go on an adventure, figure myself out kind of thing.
Find Michael you.
Find the true me. And but then, it's kind of life. This is a depressing story, but like, my dad got sick and so I had to stay here to, and I wanted to stay here. I didn't have to stay here, but I wanted to stay here to be with my family and help support the family and stuff like that. So, that's why I got into real estate actually, right? At a young age because of that. But I kind of always had this I really admired people that just like would go somewhere and they went by themselves and they just would they could be and just figure themselves out and kind of do that.
There's tons of life lessons in there. Like I spent a year down in the South Pacific in Australia and all that stuff. And I still remember to this day, it still resonates with me. I remember being at one of the backpackers there and there was a group of, say 6 or 8 people having a conversation, but they were so inclusive. And there was probably, 10 of us sort of on the periphery, literally kind of doing this. Like just laughing, kind of, they were making jokes and having fun, but we were so excluded from it, but they were sort of there. And I said to myself, I will never, ever exclude anybody from anything. And so I remember coming back and going to, one of the backpackers I was at, there was a guy in his room and he was, kind of reading. And I said, we're all going out. He said, no, I'm going to stay here. I said, no. I said, just come out.
Yeah.
Right. Like, just come. I said, come for a drink, come for a laugh, whatever. If you want to leave, leave. But just come. He was like the life of the party, man.
Oh,
like
wow.
he was like, thank you. Cause I would have just stayed at home and done nothing and read. And like, I go, you're traveling the world and you want to just like, you can read anywhere and any time, but you're here. So take advantage of it. And it's really given me the lessons to be present and be in that moment. Right. Like you're in Australia for a reason. We're here now. We're in this moment being together.
Why were you in Australia?
I'm again dating myself, but I graduated in 88. They had the Olympics.
Right.
In 80. Was it Olympics or Expo? Might have been Expo.
Okay.
Expo 88 in Brisbane. And that was sort of on my radar. I for whatever reason, I didn't want to go to Europe. Maybe it was the languages or something. I don't know. And so I went down to, I spent 2.5 months in New Zealand, 7 months in Australia.
That's
and
fun.
then 6 weeks up in Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand. Ooh. And I was gone a year to the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you went for a full year and then, and you went just totally on your own.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
And it was amazing looking at photographs. Yeah. Michael's head's blown up.
Like, what?
It was amazing looking at photographs of me when I left and when I came back. And I was a completely different person.
Right.
Completely.
And you could tell that in the photographs?
Yeah.
How did you change?
Just confidence, right? Like just you're 20 at the time or 19 at the time. And you're like, take the world on. Here we go. Right. But you have no depth to it. And just giving you that confidence of being able to do something and putting your mind to it and off you go and venture and travel and media. Like I actually put travel I had it on my resume. Like I think that's to the life lessons that you learn traveling. You get robbed, you figure it out. Like you're by yourself.
Have you ever been robbed?
I had my wallet stolen when I was in Australia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say in New York. That seems like more of a stereotype.
No, not at all.
Australia is a land of prisoners, like a land of criminals. Isn't it? Just banish all the criminals there. Yeah.
But it's part of life, right?
That's awesome.
Because when I moved to New York, it was the same thing. I was like, I have an opportunity to go, right?
Yeah.
If I get robbed every day, whatever, like, okay, I tried it. It sucked. I have an opinion.
Right.
I can now come home versus, I wish I went.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Totally.
Like, have you done any major trips? Have you?
Well, I had an existential crisis when I was 29. And so and it's because I worked essentially as soon as I finished university, I just put my head down. I just worked. So obviously became a realtor and all I did was work. I just worked 7 days a week. I never traveled. I never did anything. All I did was meet clients, call, and kind of do and focused on my work.
Was there a burnout? Did you in retrospect?
I don't think I had the self-reflection and the kind of I didn't notice, but then for example, I was.
Did the Twitch give it away? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, for example, when I first started in real estate, I was 175 pounds. And then by the time I was 29, I was 225 pounds. So I gained 50 pounds and I was living an unhealthy life, and so basically I just kind of, that's what I did for all my 20s. And then when I was 29, I was I was going to turn 30. So I was oh, shoot.
What happens after 20? That's what happens after 29.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I was okay.
You just stay 29 forever.
It's a cultural thing, I guess, right?
Exactly.
29, 30.
Yeah, just stay 29 forever.
Yeah.
I'm still 29. so and then I just kind of then I did a bit of traveling, not like a crazy year or anything like that, but I did go away and and I learned a lot about myself. And then that was a big, I wanted to try something different. And that's a big reason why we started Oakwyn was because, when I was away, I wanted to do something different and try something new and, and have a new challenge. So that was kind of a little bit of a little ping when I was away. Yeah.
But you're good at doing that every year to reflect on the past.
Yeah.
And move
I do
forward.
that now, yeah, for sure. And I did that actually when I was, but I think when you're travel opens your perspective up, right?
Yeah.
So travel and things like this, even and I read a lot and stuff like that, but it does kind of open your perspective up. But then I feel like I was just so narrowly focused on a couple missions, and until I completed those missions, I was not going to kind of, so I didn't really kind of make any changes or anything like that. I was really zeroed in. So everyone's a bit different.
Of course.
Yeah, but it's something that I kind of was maybe that would have been a fun, different, that would be in a different life for sure. Yeah.
But you can still do that now.
Yeah, and we're yeah, we can still do that now. We can still travel. So that I see specifically now I have Soph and but I see I see people traveling with kids and stuff like that. And you traveled with, you were just in Mexico, right? Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
But no, it's funny that you just talking about that. There was a scene in Good Will Hunting.
Okay.
And it was Robin Williams and Matt Damon.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt Damon is this, prodigy kind of thing. And he's doing all this reading. And Robin Williams goes, yes, you've read everything on the Sistine Chapel, but you don't know what it smells like. Until not in a negative way, but just it's what's the light when you walk into, there's something about being present in those spaces, right? That's you cannot write in a book,
right?
So to experience those
totally is it is a totally different thing for sure. How about you, Braden? Have you done any traveling?
Yeah, definitely a bit of traveling. I never did much when I was kind of my parents would take us on trips and stuff when I was younger, but high school, just after high school, my biggest priority was playing in a band. So I did traveling throughout Canada and once down to Mexico in the band. But since then, my wife and I, we've gone on 2 bigger trips. We went to Europe once, did France and Germany and England, and then went on the big trip was in 2015. I think we went to. Or 2016, we went to India, did a 3-week, just randomly, completely out of nowhere. One of the builders I was working with was going back to India, and I was I'll go at the same time.
Wow. Okay.
And he never ended up going, but we went anyways. And and it was just the most surreal, it was out of the element, and it just, again, came back just like a different person. Like I had never done anything so far out of my element and so far just away from what I know. And it was uncomfortable at times, but it was a lot of fun. And it's surprising actually how much fun we actually had. I didn't even think I was going to have fun, but we also came back with, my wife found out she was pregnant while we were in India.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I was very sick with Deli Belly and and she came up and said, I don't want to add to your misery, but pregnant. I said, oh, that's great. That's amazing.
Great. That's so awesome.
Yeah, that's my big travel experience.
That's incredible.
Yeah, Pre has actually really opened that up for me because I didn't do a lot of traveling and Pre kind of she doesn't twist my arm, but like she plans everything. She's like, okay, we're going here this year.
My wife's the same. Yeah, she'll just plan it up. Okay, we're going. She'll literally send me an email.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Where are we going? Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. It was like, so we've traveled a bit in Europe too and stuff like that. It's been like, it has been really eye opening. I was like, I like swam in some river in France. I think it's the River Seine or something like that. It was just awesome. And it's just so much history and it's just beautiful.
Well, there's a guy that I talked to, Jesse Adler, and he says, plan one big thing a year and book it early.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's set.
Yeah. That's good. That's a good thing.
You book your appointments around it.
Yeah.
Because the thing that he says, if you don't book it, someone else will, which I thought was a really relevant thing in terms of planning your year out, right? And then
you have yours booked out this year?
I'm doing a driving trip down to Palm Springs and I'm going to racing school in Palm Springs in October.
Racing school?
Yeah.
Shoot. You're going like with fam or just?
We'll probably go together. We'll just rent a house and they'll hang out. But
amazing.
there's now 6 other people that I know.
Oh, wow.
That are all kind of coming down. So it's going to be
racing. Like what kind of racing?
Well, I've got a new sports car.
Oh, sweet.
And so we're all.
That's awesome.
So their motto is, we're going to push you past your limits to show you what ours are, or something like that. Like it's
wow.
free. Yeah. So they say, there's a couple of days of.
Have you always been into cars?
I love driving.
Yeah.
I know you. That's the last thing on your mind. I love driving.
Okay.
I've always enjoyed just going, right? Standard go, like just and sound of the engine, music going.
Me too. I love it.
Yeah?
Just being out on the open road, and I even like winter driving. I don't know. It just
same. Like I went on 2 road trips last year. I did a trip a couple of years ago to Italy, and which was pretty spectacular. And it's just you don't think about anything because when you're driving intensely, we'll call it that.
Yeah.
You need to focus, right? And nothing else matters. It's the gearing up, the gearing down, it's into the corners, the handling, all that stuff. The sound of the engine is obviously, if you've got a nice car, it helps. There's something about that doesn't work. But when we go out and then we have some nice meals and drink some good wine. So it's an event. It's an event.
And fall in Palm Springs is probably the perfect weather.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So it was doing that. It was planning one big thing a year.
That's like a boyhood dream type of thing.
But Peach Back did that. He said he had a scenario because he did a talk with all the Oakwyn agents, and his mindset is it's already done.
Yeah.
Right. He had he had a breakfast with his wife, and his wife said, why don't we go to Hawaii sometime? Kind of that was it.
Yeah.
And then came back for dinner, and the wife goes to Pete, goes, what do you think about Hawaii? And he's like, I've already booked it.
Wow.
Like it's already done. I know. But
way to show us all love.
Yeah.
A legend.
But I thought, and that's really stuck with me in terms of it's already done. Right. So just book it. Right. Like, why not? Like
totally.
Because we're always too busy.
Yeah.
It's always potentially too expensive. But again, I think we're blessed in be in a position where money's okay. Mm-hmm. But even with that, to me, your visa bill is kind of like the tides of the ocean, right? If you spend, for argument's sake, $5,000 on your visa, you kind of pay it off and away you go, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's just part of your life. So why not make those moments memorable,
Yeah.
right?
That's a
Because
good philosophy.
we can always do another deal, right?
Yeah.
Like there was a time I back in 2006, I spent 5 weeks in India and Tibet and Nepal,
nice.
and
Yeah.
I ran a marathon at Mount Everest. But
Jeez.
but it was 5 weeks away, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, can you take?" And like the owner of the company at the time was like, "Can you afford to take 5 weeks off of work?" And I go, I'm sure I probably missed a deal in there, but I still talk about that trip.
Mhm.
Like that was 16 years ago now. And it's like,
Mhm.
I still talk about that trip, and I'll talk about it for the rest of my life versus, oh my gosh, that condo that I sold or that house that I sold. Like, really? So I think it's book it in
Yeah.
and plan it out for the year. But then the other thing that Jesse was saying is every 8 weeks, do something that you wouldn't normally do, which I thought was really interesting as well, in terms of instead of, hanging out and going to the park, we'll drive up to Whistler or go to Deep Cove or go to, Manning Park or whatever. Like just, spin the globe kind of thing and just do something, or even
Some
just
adventure.
try a different restaurant or go to the P&E, whatever it is. Like just do something. And he says, you then now have, another 6 of those at the end of the year events.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's noted because he's got a thing called the Big Ass Calendar.
Okay.
And
Who is this?
Yeah, who's
Jesse Eiler. So Jesse, he's married to Sarah Blakely, who is the owner of Spanx,
Okay.
and so they're
a rich wife.
yeah. Well, no, he's
kidding.
He's done very well for himself as well.
Has. Okay.
No, he's done very well for himself as well.
Okay.
But he's really
the Spanx heiress.
But he literally has it's a program he's got. It's called the Big Ass Calendar, and it's so that you can literally see.
Okay, what is the Big Ass Calendar?
It's just literally 12 sheets of. It's just a calendar that's big.
Yeah.
But it's visual, right? In terms of it's block it in, right?
Yeah.
Because again, everyone else will fill your block out.
That is really good. And just depending on where you're at, not everyone can afford to go to but you can start small, like Eric was saying, like, trying little Deep Cove or like little different adventures, right? So it just depends. And, I think that's really insightful. And I think, that kind of steers us a little bit into our topic of the day, which is in rapport building. Yes. And the reason why I wanted to talk about rapport building with the man, Eric Grant here, is because he's awesome at rapport building. He's awesome at having conversations, and not all of us are as silky smooth. Like I certainly am not, and I certainly doesn't come naturally to me. But I think we're going to talk about that and how we can easily build rapport with our clients. And I hope you learn something from this. So up next, rapport building. Woo! Okay. Thanks for listening to the Oakwyn podcast, guys. If you want to learn more about Oakwyn, Eric, do you think people should learn more about Oakwyn?
100%.
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about Oakwyn, go to oakwyn.com/join and type into the message box Evolve 2022, and you will get a free piece of
swag.
Yeah. And either meet Eric, myself, or Morgan, or one of the leadership team. Okay. Thanks, guys. Welcome back to the Oakwyn podcast. We're talking everything rapport building. Eric, so what is, so you're a relationship focused
100%,
agent, right?
100%.
So tell me a little bit about how you communicate with your clients, like what's the best way in which to kind of like build that relationship focused business?
Meet them in person.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
Like as simple as that is, it's for me, it's this, right? It's engaging, it's looking at people, it's having that conversation. For me, I also think just in the way the world is with Zoom calls and stuff like that, I'm sort of done with that. And obviously, I know we had to for a while, but it's sitting down with people. It's getting to know them. It's talking to them. It's asking them the questions. But there's obviously the techniques in terms of the mirror and match and all that stuff.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into that stuff. Yeah,
but it's really just being, again, going back to what we talked about earlier, being present, right? It's listening to them,
right,
and not needing to or wanting to upstage that scenario. It's letting them tell their stories, talk about themselves, engaging with them, asking them leading questions, all that stuff. And I think that's something that can be learned, but also it's I think in some sense it's a bit instinctual.
Yeah.
for me anyway, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Not for everyone it's instinctual, but I think for Eric, certainly, that's something. So, he makes a really good point though. It's, so there's I've noticed with a lot of training a lot of agents that there's one of the key performance indicators, one of the kind of how we know kind of a year end, how kind of even revenue and sale wise, how agents are going to do is the number of appointments they book. And it doesn't necessarily have to be listing appointments and buyer's appointments, but you book a lot of relationship focused appointments, right, Eric?
Yeah. 100%.
Going for coffee, going for a drink, going for a walk. I do a lot of walks with people now. And I think that's something that's really missing, that face-to-face, because I think that's the best way in which you're going to develop the best relationships, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Well, you're really good at that. It's how many appointments do you have booked today? We talk about business and everybody's so busy on MLS or looking at websites or going to properties, but that's not going to bring you the business. Bringing the business is having those conversations, meeting the people, talking to them. And it might not necessarily be, especially in real estate, it might not necessarily be today, but it's there.
Yeah.
There was a listing that I had last year. So, 2021, it was people that I had met back in 2002.
Wow. Yeah. So 19 years.
Yeah.
Bit of a different market, eh?
It was a little different back then, but it was someone that I had just kept in touch with. They had actually had a realtor at the time, and it wasn't about that. I thought they were just fantastic people and would keep in touch with them and see them out for dinner and how are you and engage and all that kind of stuff. And then we actually moved to the same community in Olympic Village. And so I saw them a bit more often. And then, they literally phoned me almost sort of out of the blue and they said, we want you to sell our place for us.
Wow.
So 19 years, right? So
that's right.
It's
the long game.
That's the long game. Yeah. But it's relationships. And I think a lot of it too is not having an intention. It's just being genuine.
Yeah. And I think, in this, like kind of the millennial generation of things, like people, they feel like they have to like give information, but instead of just like booking an appointment or time to see. So for example, like I know a lot of agents, they get an inquiry from one of their friends or clients about a property. And instead of them saying, hey, why don't we just look at it and go and check it out? They're like, they send all the information about the property to the client. And then the client's like, nah, maybe I don't like this about it. Maybe we won't see it. And then you miss that opportunity to actually meet them and see them and connect with them. And but we kind of have this kind of automatic reflex to just like data dump and give data dump, give information, more information. And that's not really how to build a relationship focused business, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. And it's, me sitting down with a client is literally ask them why I'm here, right? Obviously, as being a real estate agent, you kind of can do the math, but it's why am I here? What is the reason for you selling the property?
Right.
Right. And getting to the crux of the issue, if you want to call it, of why they're selling.
Yeah.
And there was one client, I still remember that. And unfortunately, the husband had some poor business dealings, or actually a business partner that was kind of messing with them a little bit. So they had to sell their dream house. And it was, but with that being said, the property that we found them ended up being a better piece of property. Plus they put, a dollar figure in their account to pay the bills and all that stuff. Right. So it actually ended up being
solution.
It was like the first place we looked at, you could just see the tears just well up in her eyes. Mm-hmm. And she was an interior designer and she was like, I can make this work. And I go, no, you can, but don't, because this isn't the place. Right. And then the next place we saw happened to be the one that the shoulders drop and they just settle into it. And it was that, but it having that conversation of why am I here? Mm-hmm. I'm on your side. I'm looking out for you. Mm-hmm. And again, just taking care of them.
Right. Yeah. And, I think a lot of people, they kind of, a lot of the sales training and stuff like that, it really comes off as being really cheesy and stuff like
100%.
Yeah. Like, objection handling and all the rest of it. But like what Eric says, just like really genuinely trying to take care of people and trying to like, be their guardian, be their advocate, right, is something that people really can feel the difference when they're being sold or when they're kind of like someone that genuinely cares. And like, for example, in Eric's story about that Olympic Village client, he didn't really have an intention or a purpose to that relationship. It wasn't to get business specifically. It's just to make a friend.
Yeah.
And in making friendships really well, it led to some business because they trust Eric and they want to they would want him to advocate for them and to be a part of this transition in their life. And that's really what it's kind of boils down to, is just to be that friend, for them that they can really go to when they're in a problem or if they need to do something important in their life, right? So
I think another thing too is being yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Not trying to be somebody else.
Right.
Because people are pretty acute now and they can see through that.
Yeah.
Versus this is who I am. I might not resonate with you, but I might resonate with the person sitting next to you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's just being true to who you are,
Yeah.
I think, as well. Like even just for you, for example, like you enjoy gaming. Right. So you're going to resonate with people who game.
Yeah. Totally.
Right. No, but it's true, right? Yeah. And then even in terms of restaurants, like for you to go to a fancy restaurant, it makes you uncomfortable.
Right.
So the people that you're hanging out with,
Boston Pizza
might be the same, right? So, but it's true, right? And for me, it might be a little bit different.
Yeah.
But
you don't like Boston Pizza?
My son does, so I do now, right?
There you go.
But again, it's who you relate with, right?
Yeah, totally.
Versus you trying to be at
you want to be authentic in
one
yourself,
of the fancy schmancy restaurants.
Totally.
You're gonna be awkward and uncomfortable or feel it, and it's gonna resonate through and come across as ingenuine.
Yeah, and that's a big thing too. You got to have that to be genuine. But let's say there's somebody that struggles with rapport building, struggles with making friends, struggles with building those relationships, and maybe they have a small circle and they need to kind of break out of their shell. I had a great conversation on another podcast with one of our new agents, Denny Duma, from Garbett and Dumas team, so Denny was like a really introverted person, kept a really small circle, but he had to kind of learn how to expand his extroversion and trying to learn how to build more relationships and stuff like that. And so, for an agent like Denny, what's a good, he's so awesome. He's such a great realtor. But the starting out Denny, what advice would we give to a guy like that? So, yeah.
Well, I think it's also, take classes, right? Take theater classes. I think that's cool. Really, really great. I know you've taken comedy, you took a comedy course. That was a change in you, right? Yeah. Just the techniques, but also, Toastmasters, I think is also a really great.
Yeah, I've done that too.
For people in terms of being able to make themselves uncomfortable to become comfortable.
Totally.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's what you need to do. If you are in that situation, if you continue to be who you are, you will remain in that situation.
Yeah. So you got to do something different. You got to make some changes to evolve. And so so even in my own example, because I'm not I was not the wonderful conversationalist.
Like I am now.
Or the great public speaker. But, I wanted to build those skills because I thought they would be really handy in business and for our company and stuff like that. So in my example, I took, I did Toastmasters. I did 2 sessions of Toastmasters, and I've done stand-up comedy classes. I've done improv classes. I've done creative writing classes, and all these types of things in which to kind of break out of, your shell a little bit and to try to learn how to just get a little bit more comfortable in front of people and things like that. So and I think it was so valuable, and it kind of pushes you because, when you take a class, you're forced to do it because you paid for it. And it's just kind of you're forced to go there. So those are always helpful. But, if there's some kind of top tips in which to to keep in mind when you're wanting to build new relationships with people, maybe you're meeting them at an open house, or maybe you're meeting them in line at the coffee shop and stuff like that. So one of them is to remember their name. Name is so huge. So that's a big rapport building thing, right, Eric?
100%. Yeah. And for me, it as simple as someone's name is, I will ask them how they spell it. And that for me, that's okay. For me, that's how I remember, because I just walk it through. Even Mike, M-I-K-E, and if it's Patty, is it I-E or Y? Mm-hmm. Or Crystal, is it with a K or a C?
Right.
So it's stuff like that. So it's I'm listening to you.
Yep.
I hear your name versus, who's Abasua?
Right.
It's okay. Your name's Mike. Oh, do you go by Michael or Mike?
Yeah. That's right.
So it's also then it's repeating it to yourself. I think that's another thing as well is repetition.
Yes. Yep.
And then starting to use, as a technique, it's now repeating their names.
Yes.
As you speak to them. Again, people like to hear their names as well.
Yeah.
It's asking leading questions versus yes, no questions as well, just to let them open up and talk to you a little bit more. Again, for me, I think the big thing is just being, and also at their level 2, I'm not going to walk in and go, when meanwhile you're quite quiet and solemn.
Totally.
There's going to be a regression there. So I think that's one. We talked about mirror and matching in terms of if they stand up, you stand up. If they're sitting forward in a chair, you sit forward in a chair. If they drink water, you drink water. That's sort of getting a bit creepy, but there is technique to that. Yeah. Which all establishes rapport.
Yeah. So that's matching and mirroring is a good thing. So like Eric talked about tonality of voice, he talked about body language, how people carry themselves. So, when you're like mimicking someone's body language, mimicking somebody's cadence in which they talk, the volume in which they talk, it helps to build a deeper relationship because people feel comfortable they're around themselves all the time. So they feel comfortable with people that are kind of like them. And so when you're trying to just develop and build that relationship, it's something that you can, I think, for the beginning of when I was learning how to do rapport building, I was a bit freaky about it. Like I would copy anything that the other person did. So like I remember being in a job interview and then the boss was like, he put his feet on the table and he had his arm, his hands behind his back. And I just did that too.
Oh, boy.
And he's just like, and we were just talking like that, like for so long. And then I was like, oh, this is so uncomfortable. This is so not me. And of course, like that was a bit far. But I ended up getting an offer for that job, but it was kind of like, but it was like, it was a bit ingenuine. And so, there's some degrees in which you want to do matching and mirroring. So that's one, having the same body language. The second is obviously finding common ground.
Yeah.
So like in our intro, we talked about traveling, we talked about like, hidden talents, we talked about music, and we found common ground. And that's a big way in which to build rapport. Right, Eric?
Yeah. I think when you walk into somebody's property, is there golf clubs at the front entrance?
Yeah.
Is there a diploma on the wall?
Yeah, people would find that would be kind of like, is it offensive for me to talk to them about their golf clubs because like I'm kind of like paying attention to these things, but it's not. It's like, you should talk to them about their golf. Yeah. Like, hey, how's your game? Does it suck like mine? Yeah. And then build a rapport like that, right?
Now, do you Google people?
So I don't. Morgan is like the cyber stalker.
Oh, is she? Oh,
Morgan's like a crazy cyber stalker. I sometimes will look them up on Facebook and stuff like that. But I've learned that I could go down the well a little bit too much with people, and so I personally don't. But do you?
I LinkedIn people.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll put their name in, and I'll typically look at their LinkedIn just to kind of see who they are professionally. Yeah. I don't try to go to the IG or the any of that because I don't think that could be good. But I think it gives you an opportunity to potentially say, oh yeah, you used to work at Starbucks, right. Or you're from the banking industry. So I think that's again being able to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And actually, there's one person I know. She was actually a chief negotiator.
Oh wow!
And she had a property in Calgary that she was going to sell. Okay. I can't remember why I know this story, but so
her job was a chief negotiator.
She was a negotiator for the RCMP.
That's intense.
And so she wanted to get this piece of property, and that's what it was. She wanted to buy this piece of property. It had been on the market for a couple of weeks or whatever, and it was obviously a quieter market at the time. So she Googled this realtor, and he was a family man, all that stuff. She ended up bringing her daughter to soften him up.
Wow.
And just, again, so maybe the realtor was trying to mirror and match, right? Bring it down a little bit. And apparently this realtor just opened up all the doors in terms of his mouth and, motivation and price and all that stuff. And he said, she said, I saved, thousands and thousands of dollars just because this person didn't, look who up I was. I had just phoned this realtor and said, can I come take a look at the property? Here's my name and number kind of thing. So that's kind of triggered in my head. I'm like, okay.
Some cyber snooping is good.
But no. Yeah. So you obviously want to be on their level.
Yeah. Another tip is to actively listen, right?
Sorry, did you say something?
Yeah, no, I didn't. Is obviously to actively listen. So what's the difference between active listening and
Like I said, in terms of what's your name, Michael, is that Mike? Do you go by Mike or Michael? So it's responding to, and I think another way is also I just want to make sure that I hear this correct. Mm-hmm. So you say you want to buy a place in Port Moody,
right?
You like red. So it's, I love red. What kind of red? So it's listening to what they've said, repeating what they've said just to sort of to get clarification.
Yeah. And that's a big thing because a lot of people kind of, while someone else is talking, they're thinking about what else they can say after. Like, what other question should I ask after? Like, instead of doing that, really try to absorb their, what they're saying and, really put a bit of thought into it and then, respond. It doesn't, it's a bit, I find eye contact, the most important way of active listening is by really like having good eye contact with someone and like learning kind of that helps me to engage and be really a good listener. So that's a big tip.
I don't know the science behind it, but I remember reading somewhere you're supposed to look at someone's left eye.
left eye.
I never heard that. I have no idea.
I've always wondered which one. I bounce back and forth.
So I heard left eye is apparently you get more control over them, or there's a bit more engagement apparently with the left versus the right. I don't know, but I've always looked at the left eye. So
good to know.
I've been wondering that. Meanwhile, we're all looking around at the left eye right now.
Wondering that for 36 years.
There you go. Left eye.
I guess I don't know. I just look at, maybe I'm just like, but some people say that if it's really uncomfortable to look, because there's some cultures where you look someone in the eye, it's actually like not a good thing. Really? It's like maybe like some Asian cultures, I think. So some people like look at the eyebrows or something that you feel uncomfortable. But yeah, it's something like active listening is key, and that helps to engage the active listening. Another one would be to ask lots of questions, right? So, and specifically, Eric was mentioning open-ended questions, right? Where they're not going to end up being a yes or no, but kind of going into a story, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Tell a story. What kind of house are you looking for? A big one.
Yeah.
Okay. Now what?
Yeah. So I think the why is the most important question that you can, so why would you like a large house? Did you grow up in a large house? And then like that changes the whole narrative. And then, one thing that, the last kind of note for rapport building is to reserve judgment. So if you, especially when you're meeting someone for the first time, if they say something so outlandish, you don't want to just like, you don't want to create a conflict with them.
Are you kidding me?
You're an idiot. Like, you don't want to do that. So like, you want to just, take it in and change the topic, but, reserve your judgment and really like, be open-minded. Right? Yeah.
Listen without judgment.
Yeah. Listen without judgment. So I think that's rapport building, guys. I hope that helped you.
Yes.
We haven't done key takeaways in a long time. Hey?
Yeah, they've been sporadic.
Okay. Well, I'm going to do key takeaways for rapport building.
All right. Here we go.
I have a list in front
of me. Therefore, in conclusion.
Yeah. So key takeaway number 1 for rapport building is remember the names. Key takeaway number 2 would be to find common ground. Number 3, to listen. Number 4 is to ask open-ended questions. Number 5 is match and mirroring, body language. And number 6 is to reserve judgment. Okay, guys, thanks so much for listening to the Oakwyn podcast. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please rate us 5 out of 5 on the podcast platform you're listening to and write us a review, because we're low self-esteem and we need those reviews.
That's right.
And if you're interested in learning more about Oakwyn, go to our website at oakwyn.com/join and type into the message box pod. No. Evolve.
Yeah, there 2022. You go.
Evolve 2022, and we will get a free piece of mystery swag. Right. Okay, guys, till next time. Thanks so much for listening.
Take care.
Okay.